Hello, this is James Carpenter from Unkovich Lapidarist. I'm not used to doing videos, so I'll probably suck at this, but anyway. I'm going to try to do a little video because people always ask me about pit filling, like Andamooka Opals after you cut them, of basically locking it down so you can get a better finish. So I'll show you kind of what I'm doing, and you can do whatever you want. So I'm going to put this on the tripod and hopefully it stays. Get some light here. So, as an example, you can see the pits all throughout inside of here and the Andamooka. So, what I do is I have my own like UV curing resin. We kind of make our own because we needed something very low viscosity, non-yellowing or whatever. And so since we have a stabilizing business, we kind of make our own. So all I do is I put a little bit on and I just work it around. And then what I'm looking for is like, I see little bubbles as it's penetrating in there, and I just kind of do that for a little while. And I'll let it kind of soak in a little bit. And then later I'll do, normally I'll do the back first, and then I do the top and the side. But since I kind of like, I'm doing a video, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm just like, I'm doing a little bass backwards. So, but it works either way. But the reason I do one side or the other is because I'm UV curing it, so I can only cure one side or the sides at a time. So that's getting the resin on there. I'm looking for any dry spots or any where I'm seeing little bubbles, like I'm seeing little bubbles pop out right here where it's wicking down in there to lock the carbon, the little bit of that darker color in there. So I don't want a huge amount of resin on there because then it's just more for me to grind off, because I'm not trying to coat it, I'm just trying to fill the pits, and then I'll grind off the excess resin. So keep saying it's wicking down inside of this one real good, down in the center, so that means it has a lot of porosity. Okay, let me see if I can show this. Hold on a second. Gotta grab the phone here. So, in my setup here, I have basically a big this is a 395 UV lamp. It's got, let's see if you can see, it's a the resin, we designed the resin to do 360 long wave, so 365 to 395. So I'm putting it here face up, and then I'm just going to turn it on, and I'll just let it sit there for a while, and then cure, and then I'll flip it over. Then I'll look and see if there's anything that's messed up on the top where it like wicked in too much, or sometimes you'll get an air bubble that'll come up, it'll pop, so it'll still have a hole there. So I just kind of have to take a knife or something, scrape that down a little bit, and then I refill it again. So because what we're trying to do is get a really good finish on our Andamookas. So as an example, again, I started this one yesterday, so you can kind of see it's shiny, but that's from the resin. I'll grind all that off, and then I'll work it up through the grits, and I'll get a natural finish on it. I'm just trying to lock the pits into it. So, get the pits filled. If you fill the pits, then you can get a finish. Otherwise, it just looks like crap. You just get this matte finish, and it just doesn't look good. So, I think that one's pretty good. Once I grind it off, I'll be able to see if there's any extra ones, and I might have to touch up an area. So, we'll see how that goes. That's the basics of that. I just kind of work it, and I'll take this back. Like I start my pit filling. Whenever I get the Andamooka, I cut it up to either I get at least through 280, and then I usually kind of clean it up onto my 600, and then I'll go back, dry it off. Then I try to decide do I want to, Andamooka always have to pit fill it, but it's like, do I need to recarbonize it? Because I don't want to pit fill it if I need to recarbonize it, because then it's hard. You can't get past the resin with the carbonization. So if it lightens up too much, I'll recarbonize it. Then I'll grind the sugar a little bit off, and then I'll decide. And then usually what I'll do is, because it might be a little bit wet, is I keep a little jar of alcohol here, and I'll just throw it in there, let it soak for an hour or two. Then I take it out, and then I let it dry off. and then I can pit fill it. So as an example, that's what I just did. This just came out of the alcohol, so let me show you what that would be. And this one I'll try to start with the back like I was supposed to. Lo and behold, this might actually end up being 2 stones. That might be a big crack right down the middle, and I could stabilize it and fill it, but if it looks like a crack, nobody's going to buy it. So we'll see if it wicks in there, but I have a feeling this will end up being 2 stones. Let me look at the other one I did. So this one's been dried out, and it's going to be a 2-sided piece, so you can kind of get an idea. It'll have a lot of nice flash in it, but I've got to get these pits filled, and then I'm using, normally I wipe off a little bit extra glue because otherwise I'm just making a big mess. I'm looking for where I'm seeing that bubbles pop up. I'm just kind of knocking them down, so I'm then trying to skip resin to fill back in there. Because otherwise it'll pop up. Then when if it put it in the UV, it'll cure, and then you'll have a bubble, and it's just a hole underneath it. So you got to kind of pop those bubbles, and then try to get resin to wick down in there. And so, you know, it normally never happens in one pass. So I'm gonna go over here. Wipe my fingers off here. I'll put this one over here. I'll pull this one out. And what you'll find is it's always on a lot of these UV resins, because you have what's called oxygen inhibition. So unless you put in special stuff into it, it's still kind of wet on top, even though it's cured underneath. And I'll show you what I mean. So what I do is I take a little bit of the alcohol from my jar, just get a new paper towel, and just wipe it off. Some areas will still be shiny, but what I'm more interested in is what pits are filled. This has a little bit of a divot, but that's, you know, that'd be a big resin pit if I did that one. But I'm looking more how it's going to finish. So I'm looking for micro pits. And it looks like it filled pretty good in there. Sides could probably use a little bit more since I didn't focus on those, but then I'll probably, you know, like do the back now. I don't know if you can actually see, focus us on this, at an angle you can kind of see the little bubbles that are forming. That's what I'll knock down, because that's where it's getting down into the pitting and filling it. And I could put this on, you know, since it's a UV cure resin, I could put this, heat it up just a little bit, and maybe it'll wick down maybe a little bit better, but I'm kind of lazy, so it's like, I just do it, if I got to do it a couple times, then, you know, because once you start doing batches, it happens pretty fast, so it's better just to keep going. For me, you know, you can do whatever you want. So sorry for the video, because I'm trying to learn how to do this, and me and the tripod aren't having a good time, so. Should be able to see. Need more alcohol. Okay. And still got some pitting. I got to do it again. Probably should have left it under the UV longer. I was video impatience, I guess. This one's really porous. You circle it around so you can see like the bubbles forming as it's going down in there. I didn't really do that earlier, so it's kind of my mistake. So it's harder to explain stuff that you're used to doing all the time. Then you end up screwing up because you basically are trying to figure out what to say. Boy, this is one pity dude here. Beautiful color, but man, it's pity. So I think I'm just gonna let this one set for a minute, let it wick down in there more, and then check for more bubbles. So I'll come back to it. Okay, let this one sit. Let's see, this is going to be 2 cabs. Freaking strong. Man, nope, I guess it wants to stay 1 cab. Okay, fine. Plus, if there's any, that porosity down in the, if there is a little crack there, this resin will wick down in there and solidify too, because it's a deeper cure. I've got both shallow and deep cure stuff for curing in this formula. So now I just need to be patient and do another video when I'm working on actually finishing it.